Coloring portrait pages doesn't need to be overcomplicated and hard. It can be easy and fun with great results. Follow along as I color this simple Hannah Lynn page. You'll see the supplies and simple techniques I use every step of the way. I'm Angeliki and welcome to my studio. So for this coloring session, I was looking for something really easy, cute and easy, and I wanted to do one of Hannah Lynn's pages. And I found this adorable surfer girl. She's the last coloring page in Hannah Lynn's book, Maui, Mermaids, and Island Whimsy Girls. And I just thought she was perfect. She looked like a lot of fun and that it would be a quick color. And it was. So if you want to color along, you'll need that book, Maui, Mermaids, and Island Whimsy Girls by Hannah Lynn. And then I also use... my favorite combination really is Ohuhu alcohol markers, either brush tipped with the chisel on the backside or with the fine point. Either one, right? They have different purposes. And then also Soucolor glitter gel pens. Those are standards. I love them for highlights and for smaller areas, finer detail, things like that. Now you can see here I'm doing the rainbow, and it's really nice because I could get 7 colors in the rainbow when there was, I think, only room for 5, right? And that's really easy to do with the glitter gel pens, and they just add sparkle. I just love them. Here you can see I'm coloring in the little seagulls, and the camera doesn't really capture it, but it's metallic. It's a metallic platinum, and it's opaque. And so platinum Soucolor glitter gel pen is one of my favorites for those types of sparkly accents. And then the other thing I use are some kind of an acrylic paint pen. I used to use Jelly Roll gel pens, right, for white fine liner accents, and then I switched over to Posca. And I've got all the Poscas. I've got like every color, every size. I've got the whole line. And then somewhere along the line, I saw another colorist who was coloring with Grabie acrylic paint pens. And so I bought the set of 48, and they've blown me away. So you'll see I use Grabie acrylic paint pens, just the white, I think, in this coloring session. But I use, oh my gosh, it's an awesome set, and I use all the colors, and you'll see them come up a lot in my other coloring videos. And that's it, just that book, the Ohuhu alcohol markers. I've got an embarrassing supply of them, but that's because it's my business, right, to be coloring. And then I have the Soucolor glitter gel pens. I get the glitter package, the glitter set. And then there's one that is a non-glitter set, which also has some glitter in it. And I have both of them, but it's the glitter set. That set is the one that I use all the time, and I love it. And I'm even on my second pack, right? They're really great. They're super affordable, and they come with refills. Every set has a complete set of refills. And so it's really high value for your money. So those are the tools that I use. Now, when I'm approaching one of these types of coloring pages, specifically the Hannah Lynn pages, I always start with the background. I have never started with the girl. I like to start with the background because it kind of, I kind of insert myself into the scene and feel the vibe that's there and what's the vibe I want to create. And so here I'm starting with I did the sky, and then now I'm doing the water. And what I did with the water is oh my gosh, it reminded me of the north shore of the Greek island that my family's from. The island is called Samos, and it's in the northern Aegean, right off the coast of Turkey. And on the northern side of the island. The waters are all these different colors that you see on the screen here, right? These are like actual, it really looks like this, you know? You take a picture on the northern side and you can see closer to the shore where it's shallower, it's that gorgeous, like pale blue, sometimes even like crystal blue, right? And then as you go further out, it gets that sort of medium blue, and then further out it's that deeper, rich, dark Mediterranean blue. So I was inspired by that, even though this is definitely not on Samos. It's definitely Hawaii. I thought, let me take that approach. And so I picked out a few colors that I liked that kind of hit those notes, and just began to kind of layer in the different colors. And then the more, the closer I got to where our little cutie surfer girl is, I got lighter, and then as I went up the wave, I used a lighter color even still. And then I went back and I could see where the details were, and I started to add some darker colors over lighter, so I could create a little bit of interest. But I'm not, you can see, I'm not going crazy here, right? I'm not getting into too much shading. This is very, very straightforward. I'm just filling in the lines with colors that I like, and that above the top I could see is not clouds. It's actually the spray, you know, like the foam and the spray of the wave that's curling up over her. So I thought, well, let's do a little background of some pale blue, and then later on I'll come in with some white to kind of give some highlights. And I had the same thought with the clouds there. Do a little gray, and then later we can come in and do some white highlights. And that keeps it simple but cute, right? And if I were working with Prismacolors or some other kind of colored pencil, I might spend a lot more time to create all kinds of shading and highlights and all that type of stuff. But that's not what this session is. This session is just to put color to paper and relax and not overthink it and have a fun, relaxing, quick color. So next up was the mountains, the trees, and again, this still was evocative for me of Greece, because I don't really see any, I don't see any palm trees or kind of tropical illustrations here, and so I was like, well, let's be evocative of the Greek islands and do some brown, lots of brown. There's lots of brown there, right? Because it's like a desert, and it's very arid. Although you get the humidity from the sea, right? So it's also humid, and you get lots of lush greenery on Samos. But I wanted some brown hills. And then I'm like, okay, we did the background. Let's start turning attention to our little cutie pie here. So I started with the surfboard, and I wanted something that was just really fun and vibrant. So I picked a few oranges, and I thought I would do tiger stripes as well. At this point, I thought, yeah, let's do a little. There we go, a little tiger stripe. So I pulled in the color Night, the Soucolor glitter gel pen Night, which is the darkest black that's in that set, and it brings some sparkle. And one thing I like is when I'm working with bright colors or lots of pinks, is I love to pair them with blacks or browns, because it kind of takes some of the cuteness out of it, right? It kind of softens the super cuteness, and I absolutely love pink, and I love working with pastels, and I love working with bright colors, but toning it down with a little bit of black gives it a little bit of an edge, and that suits my style. I like that, right? So you'll see in a minute I decide to dress her all in pink, and I bring some black, the same way as I did with the surfboard. So here we go, bringing in the Grabie acrylic paint pen, the acrylic marker, And all I'm doing is, I'm not overthinking this. I'm just outlining on the inside, right, of the clouds. And I was thinking, well, all right, do it where it overlaps, not on the underlap, right? Because if I were going to really get into it, I would do a darker shadow on the underlap, right? Where a cloud is above, I would go underneath it with something dark. But here I was thinking, just keep it simple and do some white on the inside where it's overlapping. Makes it pop a little bit. And then I did the same thing with some of the waves as well. And one thing I like about this technique is it gives kind of a cartoon effect. You know, it's not a super fine arts effect where you're blending and shading both the highlights and the shadows. And ultimately that's really what this coloring page is giving, is kind of a cartoon feeling. And that works, right? That works just as well as when you feel like doing something more serious. Something about this Grabie pen is so much smoother than any of the other white fine liners I've worked with. Sometimes the Posca pens are kind of runny, you know, even though I shake them, and sometimes it just, I don't know, sometimes I don't get the easy coverage. You also have to be careful when you're using Posca on which of the Posca pens, which of the fine liners you're using, and how it affects the paper you're on, because the 1mm can really chew up paper, and you get that kind of grainy effect, right? But the 1MR has I think kind of like a softer plastic nib, and that one seems to work better. But it just depends. You have to kind of experiment and test things out. Just be mindful of that. That 1mm can be harsh on paper sometimes. But this Grabie, you can see, look, it's going on very smooth. So here on the waves, I'm doing that underlining technique, and as I'm doing it, I'm not liking, this is what I'm thinking at the time, I'm not liking the effect. It needs more, is what I'm thinking as I'm putting it down on the waves themselves. I mean, you know, they look like white caps, right? Or that's what they're evoking anyway. But I wanted more, I don't know, some more nuance without getting fussy, a sense of movement. And so I brought the denim colored Soucolor glitter gel pen, and I kind of drew in these little wave shapes, and that worked a treat. That worked for me. It kind of just gave a little bit more shape, and also brought that sparkle, because the sea sparkles in the sun, right? So I liked that. That was a good effect for me. Yeah, just like little wavy shapes. And you can see the sailboat in the background. I started with a yellow glitter, I think a honey pot. Honey pot has a nice bright yellow Soucolor glitter gel pen, but it just wasn't enough. And I think there was a little bleed over from the green into the sail. So I brought in a yellow Grabie acrylic paint pen, and it made that sailboat pop. So that whole set, that 48 pen set of Grabie acrylic markers is fabulous. Those colors are really gorgeous, and you can find a lot of uses for them. And then in this middle blue, I used the Soucolor glitter gel pen, the color Cerulean. And just did the same thing, gave a little wavy effect. A little ripple, right? Because that's how water really works. Now we're moving on to her shorts, her clothes. I wanted to do her all in pink. And so I picked this nice deep orchid for her shorts. But I don't want her to be like, I don't want to say too Barbie. I mean, I didn't want her just to be, I wanted to give her a little bit of an edge. So I do bring in a little black, as I said, into her top. And this is, I think it's either fuchsia or nectarine. We're going to find out in a second because I ran out. So here is here's the glitter gel pen set, and there's the refill package that it comes with. And what you do is you find they're numbered. So you find the number, you pop off the nib, there we go, fuchsia. And you just unscrew it. Slip in the refill. You can see my hands are covered with all the acrylic paint pen stuff. And voila, you're ready to go. Sometimes you have to just kind of give it a little scribble to get the ink running, and then you're good. So I'm keeping things going on pink with her waistband, and then I bring in more of the fuchsia just to do a little bit of the accents. And I think that's what I love so much about this pairing of the Ohuhu markers and the Soucolor glitter gel pens is they really give a great effect on the overall picture. They just make it sparkle and light up. And it's just easy and so dang fun. Isn't that a cute effect? Alright, so now I've got a Sakura pink. Sakura pink is very pink. Very, very Barbie pink. And so I had decided when I picked it, right, that I'm going to kind of tone it down with some metallic and some black. But we give her just a simple, just an easy background. Yeah, so you can see here I switched from the fine point to the chisel tip because I was running out of it. The fine point was kind of dry. And I'll tell you, I've over over time I've gotten more comfortable working with the chisel tip because it can be a little intimidating. Like, how do you control it, right? So I encourage playing with it, right? Because you can color on the narrow side of the chisel and play with that, and then you can flip it over, and when you use the full side of that chisel, you don't have to have the whole thing flat on the paper. You can kind of raise the back edge, kind of like the butt of it, raise it up into the air, and you can find that actually you can get a lot of control. So don't be intimidated by the flat part. You can really experiment. All right, so we've moved on. We added some of the night and some of the platinum onto her top, and I'm ready for the skin. So I wanted to give her a nice golden tan. And so I picked this sandy color, this golden sandy color. It's actually called sand. And it gave the effect I want. Now, when you're putting color on skin, like pick a section that is contained by an outline, and then go for it. Right? Don't stop until you've finished coloring in that section. What the trick is you want to keep the ink, the alcohol that's going onto the paper, you want to keep the leading edge of it wet. And don't go, and you can go back over wherever you've been as you're moving along the paper. You can do that as long as it's wet, but once it dries, it's risky. You're potentially interfering with the dyes and that you're laying onto the paper, and you can start to get streaks and splotches. So you'll see here that I go back and forth in a little area to completely saturate it with the alcohol and the dye that's in it, because alcohol markers aren't like paints. Paint has pigment particles that you're distributing, but that's not the way that it is in alcohol markers. Is you've got alcohol that's distributing a dye. So use the alcohol to saturate, make it a nice even saturation. Don't go too fast or you're going to end up getting streaks because it's going to be an uneven saturation. That's what you need to keep your eye on, getting nice even saturation. So I know that it's really kind of trendy right now in a lot of coloring videos where the colorist is doing long, even sweeps back and forth. And I think that looks great on camera, but it doesn't necessarily give the best results. Sometimes having a nice light hand and going back and forth to ensure you got good saturation, that's really what you need to do. So I'm doing all the extremities as I work my way up towards the face. The face tends to be the trickiest. But in this cute girl, her face is quite small. So the chance that we're going to get a blotchy effect is decreased. The bigger the face, the bigger the expanse, the trickier it is, because you're dealing with that it's a race against time in a way for the alcohol to evaporate. And then you lose that wetness on that leading edge that allows you to ensure even saturation. Once that dries, you're going to get some overlap and you're going to get some blotchiness. But with this little cutie, I think we're going to be okay. Alright, so I'm looking at her face going, okay, here we go. And this is the technique I use. I start with the forehead, and I do long sweeps here, but I don't move on until everything's saturated the way I want it. And then I do on the Hannah Lynn, this is, if you see how I'm doing that X, that's how I learned to navigate her face, her eyes, her nose, like that. Then I work my way down around the mouth, and I got the chin, and voila. Now you're gonna see it looks a bit splotchy, but that's just the wetness. It's just the alcohol. It has to dry, and then it'll give that really nice velvety effect. She's so cute. Alright, so now I'm going to just use a red. The color is called Punch in the Soucolor kit. And I think I just use Punch and Platinum. There's the Platinum. For all of her jewelry. I just kept it real simple. And as I said earlier, the platinum is opaque, so it means it's it'll cover up the black lines. Most of the glitter gel pens, they're not opaque. They're rather transparent. But the platinum is a nice, rich, opaque metallic. Yeah, right there. Sparkle. Gotta love the sparkle. I'm a former competitive ballroom dancer, and you can take the girl out of ballroom dancing, but you can't take the sparkle out of the girl. I just love it. Love the bling. Love, love, love. Cute, cute, cute. All right. So now I'm getting ready to do the hair. So I've picked 3 shades. What I do is I use a two undercoloring shades with a fine point marker, and then 1 over color with a brush. That's just one technique, right? Just one technique for doing the hair, but it's one I use a lot when I'm doing the Hannah Lynn and similar types of coloring pages. So I use the fine point, and I just follow the lines of the hair, and just draw in some hair strands. Right? It's like you don't have to be fussy, but take your time and just follow the lines. And I do it first with the one color. And for this surfer girl, I wanted to do I don't do a blonde-haired, blue-eyed combination very often, but I wanted to give a really nice honey blonde effect. That's what I was going after. So I found a couple darker yellows. A deep yellow and a sunflower yellow. And one of the things I do is I look for a color, like one of the colors on the undercoloring. I pick a bright color. I often use purple or red or pink, depending on what effect I want. You know, do I want to give an auburn? Do I want to give that kind of like a purpley black? But I use a bright color, and then here's the bright color, the yellow, and then I pick some kind of a brown, or a dark gray if I'm gonna go for black, or it might be a really dark gray. I'm not gonna use like an actual black. That's a little bit too harsh. But I do some kind of a dark brown or whatever that darkest shade is. I use that in the undercolor, and then I pair it with some kind of a bright color. And then when I pick my overcolor with the brush tip, that's kind of a medium. It's more of a medium tone, and it kind of pulls it all together. That's the strategy I use. Something bright, something dark with the fine tip, and then something medium on the brush tip that will kind of like meld it all together. So I've put the 2 undercolors on here, and now I'm going over with the overcolor with the brush tip. Now, the thing to do here is not to scrub. You just want to just brush it on like you're painting, because if you scrub, you're gonna ruin the nuanced highlights that you've put in underneath. Right? So you're just brushing it on like you would paint, covering over everything. going section by section and coloring everything over, and that's where now you can kind of see all the nuance that you've put in by using that undercoloring effect. And she ends up having this lovely little golden honey colored hair with lots of highlights that would naturally be showing up in the sun. And then for the little wispy wisps that are sticking out, I used a Soucolor. I used Bruno. That's the color. That's the color of the pen, Bruno. That has sort of like a soft brown effect, just to pick up the little wisps. Yeah, this technique on hair is it's just so easy, and you get such a nice effect. It's not hard. It's not stressful. You don't have to overthink it. It's really, really relaxing. She looks good. How easy was that? Now I'm going with some glitter gel, and I put in some highlights. So I'm using Honey Pot. Soucolor Honey Pot is the color. It's a really pretty sunny yellow, and I'm putting in some highlights. You can't really see it. I mean, you can see it going down on camera, but it looks great later when all is done. It just really makes things pop. And one of the things I found with glitter gel pens is you don't want to put too much, right? It's like it's the contrast between the glitter gel pen lines against the flat velvetiness of the alcohol markers that makes it look so awesome. So I'm just putting a few in. Again, I'm following the lines. And it only takes a few minutes to give a great effect in the finished picture. It's really visible when you do kind of like close-up camera sweeps, you know? She looks cute. She's coming alive. And now I decide I'm gonna give her blue eyes, which again, it's not something I normally do. Now, it took a while for me to figure out how to color in the Hannah Lynn eyes, but she's done such a great job actually setting things up. So what I do is the whole that huge round globe part of the eye, the iris, I fill the whole thing with color, and then the iris, I usually the pupil, I usually go in and I shape it out, and I typically make it a little bit bigger than what she has put in. And then I let the ink dry, and then I go back later with a paint pen, an acrylic paint pen, to put in a little highlight. And look how easy it is to do a nice little lip just one color, leaving that little bit in the middle on her lower lip, leaving that open. And then I let it dry, and then I usually go back in with one or two colored pencils, whatever I've got, but usually I'm working with Prismacolor. And I'll put in a little pink and a little paler pink, maybe a little white, to give it some highlights. But while that's drying, I switch now to some skin highlights. Now in this case I decided to use a pencil. I could very easily use a marker. A marker is going to give more of that, a little bit more of that, what's the word? Like a cartoon effect, right? It's a little bit sharper. And she just was so little, I just thought, I'm going to just do a really, really subtle shading, under her chin, around her neck. I didn't really go overboard. I could have done a lot more shading with her. I picked kind of a golden brown as well. And then on top of it, I picked a sort of a rose color, a rosy pink, because you spend all that time out in the sun, and you get all sun-kissed, and you get a little bit of a rosy glow, and the pre-sunburn, right? So I just started with a golden brown, a bronze I think is the color, and gave her a little brown shading, and then there's the rose. And again, I used a real light touch. I could have done a lot more shading, but hey, this was supposed to be my a quick and easy, relaxing coloring session, and so I didn't want to get too aggressive there. Now look how I do the shading on her cheeks. I use this I found kind of like a sideways triangle with the base of it along the edge of her face and then narrowing inward. That's a really great way to visualize it when you're doing this, and it gives what I call like a Barbie cheeks. Just kind of a simple, easy blush effect. And of course all this could be done more aggressively, right? But I'm just kind of using a light touch. And then I take the rosy pink and I do the tops of her legs, the tops of her feet, the tops of her arms, right? Her chest area, all the areas that when you go in the sun you get hit up with a little bit of a sun-kissed effect. So at this point in the page, I'm really coming to the end of it, right? So now I'm looking at, where do I want to, what are the final touches that I want to put on here? Do I have the right, is there anything else on the shading, on her skin? What about the background? I can see a few areas where I want to add some white highlighter just to finish it. I decided to add some little spray kind of dots and squiggles and splodges, and just to keep it really, really simple. I did go back later and I experimented with adding a little bit of highlight to the spray dots with using a Soucolor Platinum glitter gel pen, just to see, if I could get kind of a more nuanced, an easy nuanced effect, right, without spending too much time with colored pencils. And it was cute, but I mean, this was fine too. Again, I'm going after kind of a cartoon effect. So this looked fine. I added some up in the spray itself, a little bit coming down on the waves. I didn't want to carry it further into the picture. And now I'm at the point where I'm looking at the coloring page as a whole. What else does it need to make it, give it the final highlight, the final pop? And I can see there's a few places where I wanted to add some more white highlights to make things pop. And then I'm going to go in and do the highlights on her pupils. And oh my gosh, I have tried so many different things over time, and finally just discovered, a simple white dot off-centered, usually to the right of her pupil. There she is. She's so cute. Look, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm so happy you've spent this time with me. Check the next video in the queue, and see you again soon.